The next reader is Adrienne Novy, and she's a senior at Geneva High School. She became involved in the spoken word community after her friend Cole Downey, who has also performed here, introduced her to Eric Darby's work. She has loved poetry ever since. Her passions include performing music with the high school, competing on the speech team, and of course, spoken word poetry. She hopes one day to compete in Louder Than a Bomb in Chicago, which is a slam poetry event, and pursue her love for writing and illustration. Adrienne had some very kind things to say to Ian and I and to Waterline writers, and I kind of put that in the program. But we are just grateful that she came to our attention and is willing to grace us with her performance. So, Adrienne, come on up.
Okay. Hi. I'm Adrienne, and this poem that I'll be performing is based on a true story. Back in September of last year, I went to a Rosh Hashanah service with my mother, and I started to not feel very well, so I went over to go sit next to her to try to convince her to let us go home. So it had gotten to the point where they were serving lunch and everyone was, it was appropriate time to leave. So I went over to talk to her, and I found myself sitting next to her and an elderly gentleman who I thought that was actually a nice person, and he asked me, and this is my conversation with him, and this poem is called Norman. The impending doom of dreams dances on obscure questions. So I was sitting at a Rosh Hashanah service in my best dress, restless, in which between my mom and this flannel-wearing guy who may have been related to the rabbi. His puckered, pathetic visage is facing in my direction, and the 4 simple words he speaks are an infection. What do you do? Totally caught off guard, I choke on a chunk of Macintosh. The honey apple sweetness stuck in my throat is stinging from his sour tongue. So I swallow his acidity and insensitivity and say, I want to paint illustrations that color nations and make parents proud. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, I want my creative vocabulary to flower. The power behind my poetry, teaching life lessons to children. My blooming beauties becoming books for them to sprout the stems of preschool-age thought process. Preparing orbits for their planets, my rhymes will protect them from their fears, spinning so fast, weaving safety nets that will catch and dry their tears and tell them that one day they'll slingshot to the stars. And he says, with a career like that, you'll starve. His cutting remark carves a dent in my poetry, but little does he know that I am satiated on syllables. I suck spoken word through straws, and if I haven't had my poetic fill, I'll eat the plums in the icebox before William Carlos Williams knows that they were even there. And what scares me is that painful people like him don't have mouths made out of keyboards and that their brains aren't built with backspace keys. His name is only a letter away from normal, and this social norm is one that I refuse to form to. I'll take his wireframe glasses and have him see how the light bleeds like watercolors, how pens can send promises, and if my dreams to make change only survive on spare quarters, I'll give him the doctor's orders to replace blindness with kindness and sign him a new prescription. Thank you.